Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Goes to the Library. I'm your host, Sean, and with me, as always, is Big Paul. What's going on, Big Paul?
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, my goodness. Do we have a fun episode for you guys tonight? So this is the second time that this book has been reviewed on this here YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about Sam Hyde's and John Pelech's JAIHOO'S Trip to the Future. So Dan Profit and I did an original review, our infamous, famous review. Everybody loves this review, Paul. I've sold books for Sam Hyde, so I would like a fucking check, honestly. I bought books. I've sold books. I'm just saying, I'm out there hustling for you, Hyde. So let's show me a little fucking respect. How about you retweet that fucking video? Anyways. We've been slowly drip feeding Big Paul, Sam Hyde stuff for years. Like, literally for years, we just send him, or especially Prophet, just sends clips and jokes and stand-up routines. And finally, Big Paul decided to take the leap and go tripping into the future with our boy JAIHOO. Listen to the audiobook, all 3 parts. It's about a 14-hour experience, maybe, or is it like 12 hours? Something like that.
Nine
Is it 9 hours? Jesus Christ. This is a children's book. Anyways. But anyway, so my opinions are kind of out there. I did re-listen to it already. The reason why Prophet isn't here is because I specifically want to hear how Mr. Miller feels about it. I want to know what you thought about it because you're not as steeped into this shit as we are.
Right.
Like, you're just not online as... I mean, we've tried our hardest. He's falling fast, everybody. But he still keeps his one leg into normie world more than my leg is in there. Yeah. So I'm really kind of just curious because you're just more of a nascent Sam Hyde appreciator or fan, or I don't even know. Are you even a fan of Sam Hyde, actually? Do you like Sam Hyde?
I guess kind of there's a lot of the MDE stuff that you guys showed me too, and in what track this has been, because 4 years ago on Zoobox I was the resident normie and still am, relatively speaking, but it's been clipping. I get too many references now when I scroll through X and Reddit, and I don't know how I feel about that, right? Things that would normally gloss over, now I'm just like, whoa, shit, I know about that. I know who these people are. Sam Hyde was one of them. I didn't know anything about this till you guys dropped that behemoth of an episode, right? To go check that out, and it did pique my interest. I was like, oh wow, that sounds pretty fucking gnarly. Let's give this a go. And then, as we do on Zoobox Goes to the Library now, it's basically our book club. We do on
pretty
YouTube.
Much, yeah.
And I was like, you know what, fuck it, because after we do a heavy hitter, because we've been really looking to the classics lately, pick up everything that we revisiting things from our youth and things that we missed over that are notable classics like Moby Dick, Blood Meridian, and whatnot. So we're getting those in there, but every now and then, in between these, we need a breather and something light. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, let's make this be that thing this time around. So we listened to the audiobook narrated by Sam Hyde, JAIHOO'S Trip to the Universe. So I would say I'm not a hardcore hardcore fan. I can't tell you anything on this, so I just came to it I came on board for the story.
Well, that's kind of what I'm interested to hear your perspective, because you are so removed from it. I can understand Sam Hyde fans or people that are familiar with internet culture, internet humor, from the deep dark depths of the internet. It's not normie internet,
Yeah.
So I'm very curious just to hear what your experience was and how much you either liked it or didn't like it, what you thought worked, what you thought didn't work, because I think that is a perspective. I can't imagine many people kind of your perspective or your lifestyle reading this book, ever even coming across this book, right? So It's kind of a novel opportunity, no pun intended,
right.
To kind of hear somebody that's not familiar with this stuff,
No, it's fine, because my wife, she's also in a book club too, but she's, she doesn't get Zoobox numbers. Let me tell you that much right now. But we always talk about what we're reading and whatnot. And she's like, "What are you reading now?" I'm like, "JAIHOO'S Trip to the Future." She's like, "Oh, what's that? Did you like it?" I'm like, "No." You wouldn't make it 10 minutes into this book, and she's like, All right. And asking questions just took my word for it too. But
Yeah.
no, I gotta say, like with all that lore going on, like 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 I felt like I didn't need to be a hardcore Sam Hydeite. I need to have a Gumroad membership and know like his whole body of work to get it. I was hoping to just kind of take it for what it was, and just from Sam Hyde, the author, and like what kind of story he was going to lay out there for. And I got to tell you, we always make the caveat whether we listen to something or if we read it. In this case, I listened to it, and I would say to anybody that hasn't read it yet, this is something that you got to listen to.
Yes. Yeah.
It just, in my opinion, because it's what makes the experience and you get through. So because the story is so incoherent, and we can talk later, but either that's by design, uh, given the you know rapid deconstruction and confusion, feel like everything with various lenses of perversion and just like
Yeah. It's like
most
sensory
crass like
overload. It's
parody,
an
most crass
overload. It's
parody that you could ever think of. Like there's shit said in this book that I'll never be able to unhear. There's visuals put into through Sam Hyde's narration that you'll never be able to like unsee after this. So it's definitely it's not for the faint of heart, right? And so my overall like opinion is like as a performance piece, like like an artist standpoint, like narrating like a message, a story here. I would say although it's like incoherent, it works. Like I get it. Like I can
mhm.
appreciate from that one. Like I think if I were to read this for the first go, I it would have been a struggle session, and I don't think
Yeah.
it would not be enjoyable at all because of its incoherent. And he even in the storyline, like really kind of breaks down really near the tail end of it too. So there will
Well,
be
he jokes.
spoilers.
He jokes about it
There's
because
even
they're like,
footnotes about how he didn't finish up like subplots too, right? And so it's
yeah,
like it's
which is
something.
very. It's a very Sam Hyde thing because he's very very rough around the edges. We'll say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So and with that, and then but that was just kind of like the general thing. Like I appreciate the satire, the parody, and like the really because really all he's offering there is just the context of the world he's in there. So he's not really telling any other like story through JAIHOO or anything like that. He's just really the message is look how fucked up the world is projected to be through woke ideas, whether wherever you are on the left right paradigm. Like he kind of
Hmm.
he embraces like all major corporations from pharmaceutical companies to like Dow chemical companies, car manufacturers, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is an area, fast food industry, and then the sex work and stuff like that. So everything in here is just like this hodgepodge of like just most grotesquely articulated way of just saying like how bad things can go in the future, right? So if you take like the concept of like idiocracy and just went full fucking uh like dark web on it, like that's kind of what you get here, right? And like
Yeah,
and
that's a
I
good way to
thought
put
about
it.
that too, because you think about like what was the point of idiocracy. What was that? Was it Matt Judge, the guy who did idiocracy? Like
Mike
what was he
Judge. Yeah.
basically? Mike Judge. I was still with the first names, but
Yeah.
like what was the point of it? That movie is just like this is where we could go, right? That was it's like a warning, it's a cautionary tale, right? And so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I would say, like Jarvis Triple, it's a cautionary tale. Like, okay, I get that, but from chapter 1 to chapter 15 and the 9 hours in between, do you have anything more to say other than that? And that's where I think it fell flat for me as a story,
Hmm.
as a a loyal listener, like in this case. And then so you're really just on it for the Sam Hyde's narration performance piece of it, and
I
not
agree.
so much the
Yeah.
story, because everything he has to say, he kind of says it in the first chapter.
Yeah. And if you get the audiobook, it's split into three parts. So like breaks the book up into three distinct parts. And I would say that the first part is the strongest because it's all new. It feels fresh. It
Yeah,
feels original. It actually, the story feels like it's heading somewhere, I suppose you could say. It gets very lost in its own stuff, and it becomes very redundant by the end because essentially it's the same set of jokes over and over and over again. But like we said, that is not entirely unintentional. I do think that he is aware that they're doing that because it's supposed to be, in some ways, a sensory assault. It is supposed to make you feel like, it's supposed to make you kind of feel. I don't think uncomfortable is the right word, but
I think
like
it is. I think
it's
it's the
like
right word.
it's like abrasive. It's an abrasive thing, especially like you had said about him as the narrator. That is such a big component, I think, of what makes it work at all.
Mhm.
Because he's just normal prose, start screaming, like
Yeah.
randomly,
No, it's a performance.
rape that bitch, like
Yeah. Yeah.
which I had my headphones off. I was listening to that. And I was outside in the yard, and I was like away from my phone because I was lifting weights, and I was like, "Oh shit, oh shit, no,
You
the
gotta have the
neighbors."
earplugs on with Sam Hyde's on, man. You
I know
gotta.
I should have known better. I should have fucking known better, but
Uh,
and I
yeah.
did know better too because I'd listened to the book before. But the thing is, like I listened to it, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't really remember much about it other than like the references, like the general idea of the jokes and the kinds of jokes, but most of the particulars and the plot especially, I kind of it kind of evaporated from my mind.
Mhm.
So even though I had already experienced this before, it did feel kind of like a new thing, but I had a different perspective on it this time because I was already kind of familiar with its like structure and the way it was presented. And I kind of, like you had said, it kind of fell a little flat if you were to really be critical about it, just because, like I said before, it's very redundant by the time you're like halfway through the book. It's like how many different ways can you kind of like reconfigure the same jokes?
Right.
I mean, there's some, and that's not to say that there aren't like flashes of brilliance throughout, and
And not
really
to
some
say that
really,
the jokes, even if they're repeated with a slightly different tint to it, aren't funny either, right? And
yeah,
so
exactly. No,
like
it's
it's
definitely
good, but like when you're getting to the like like what are like okay, what are you saying? Like what is the story, right? And that's where like we're saying like it falls flat for me. But like we don't do plot recaps with Goes to the Library. Right? We just kind of like dive into um, really like what we liked and didn't like of this whatever it is that we're reading. So, what'd you think of the main protagonist, Jaiho's like his his overall arc, his character arc, as he navigates this journey through the
in
future?
in so much that he has one.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
he's a
something of it.
passenger.
So
He's a
he does.
passenger.
He is a pastor, right? But he's a product of his environment, right? And
Oh, sure.
I thought it was really interesting that what they call them the Sperlinks. Sperlinks was the term they used to reference to somebody who was like half Mexican and half Korean.
That's
Now,
right. Yeah.
and like in both those, they're historically very masculine cultures. Koreans are based as fuck. Mexicans, they're pretty based. They're pretty
Yeah.
based. Yeah, we saw it firsthand when we went down there. But both hardworking cultures and stuff like that. So I have one together with this new name. I think it was a playoff like Latinx or Latinx, whatever.
Oh, Latinx.
We don't have
Yeah.
our mutual buddy Estonitis to correct us on the appropriate terms here.
Yeah.
But I just think it was really interesting that he chose like that specifically to like represent this main protagonist as he's going
That's a
through
good
this
point.
journey,
Well,
right?
because I
And
think it's about the biracial, mixed race future, and Khaleesi's like some fat white girl. Like,
Khaleesi
that
is
is
the love
just,
interest for Jaihu, right? But
yes.
he goes he goes in uh, like just basically breaking this down. Like he progressively through his journey through the future he does like I know he said like not really much of an arc, but he does like grow like both with sweet hollow legs, amputations and like
That's right. Yeah.
robotics,
Yeah.
other type of futuristic enhancements. But just his mental capacity grows, and I think what's funny, more subtle, is like what brings Jaihu drives him to the edge is hard work, getting a sense of self purpose. Getting employed was one of the most like rewarding things, as far as even though the job that
Yeah.
he got in the future was ripping books, which we can get into that later.
This is funny.
But even something like as crazy as that, those things were like empowering of him too. Still product of his environment as he kind of unrolled and developed start to break out his current like mind traps that it was in his current year. I think it was like 2070, like when it starts, and he goes in the future
Yeah.
100 years later or something like that, right? To the point to where he like meets the creator, he meets God, and starts like pushing back and questioning, and then goes fills out the prophecy, which in of itself is interesting because when they meet the Jesus figure, or they call him Jesus in this one, you know, Jesus was prophesied in the Old Testament, came in the New Testament, and fulfilled a prophecy, just like Jaihu does, as he's like foretold in various different like prophecies in the future here, and he comes in to fulfill what the creator wants him to do as well. So I think he's having like a fun, definitely fun with that. So, but
Hmm.
overall, as like a protagonist, like what a sad fucking thing to follow for 9 hours. Am I right? Like it was
But
just
I guess because they try to earn it a little bit at the end because it's kind of the solution to the incel, the neat life people,
mhm,
right? It's like, yeah, get a job, have routines, have a sense
right.
of purpose. You'll feel better about yourself, and then things will progress from there. You'll actually
Yeah,
just have a sense of
and
confidence
work hard and work
and
hard,
work
and you'll
hard.
break out of whatever rut that you're in, right? In
Yeah.
which he gets in, because this book is kind of like like a retarded ADHD riddled like choose your own adventure type of like game, right? It just kind of goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then it stops, right? That's the journey that you're on here. One could
Hmm.
say like like a drift race, So like, there's a big drift race in the novel here. So, but yeah, man. So it kind of goes through this, and then as you're going through here, and then the real like subtext there is just like this is what they've done to men. Like this is what
Yes. Yeah, they've
it can
completely
happen to you.
emasculated
This is
them.
the environment. Like this is what happens when you get completely neutered and whatnot. And if you don't get a chance to go seek the 1,000 year wisdom bestowed on you by a Joe Rogan, like you will never get out of it, right? So you got to work hard. Don't be a dick, don't be a pussy, and beat the shit out of dudes. That's the
And choke
1,000 year
dudes.
wisdom, right?
Choke dudes.
Choke
Choke
dudes, yeah.
dudes.
Kiss dudes, no, choke dudes. So
What's up, freak bitches?
what's up, big
The way
bitches?
Sam Hyde delivers that is so funny.
Yeah.
Um, because I loved all this stuff, especially early on when they're describing like Jaihu and Khaleesi's relationship, and it is so much what is happening and has been happening over the past 10 years of like the open relationships, but it's never really, it's the guys don't often, doesn't seem like they benefit very much from it. It's
Right.
usually these like fat blue haired girls that end
Queen.
up with like two or three like skinny nerd guys,
Mm-hmm.
and they all live in like a shitty little house together, and they play video games with each other, and apparently they fucking suck each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it was so because it's so funny because it's like through Jaihu's perspective, he's like this deep empathetic person. He has all these feelings about Khaleesi and about her needing to be with other men, and some really funny the Skippies. I mean, come on, that
And
stuff is pretty good.
what's crazy about it is that his like deep seated like passion and love for Khaleesi did not come at all from anything that Khaleesi has treated him with. It came from
No,
the world that he's living in, and this is what you do for
you're
queens, and all this
yes,
like godly group about like body positivity and like all this other shit. And then you have Khaleesi that embodies all these terrible toxic traits of what's in like just insert it here ism and there, right? She embodies
yeah.
that, and so he sees that at like which is like really just like the
Oh,
cruel
it's like
punishment of being born in that time or being in part of that environment, right? And
yeah,
that's
it's like a cultural dog whistle. It's like this thing that like this is the new form. This is what men
mhm,
are now, and this is what you're
mhm,
supposed to conform to. These are the new expectations. You don't have to build bridges. You don't have to work in factories. You don't have to be mechanics, but you have to do. But this is what your life is now,
right.
unless you're a skippy ball player,
Skippies, they're green aliens that inhabit the
like
earth that are
dude. Because it's so, and I love that too because he taps into like what like it's a science fiction trope. Like
mhm,
especially if you read a lot of short sci-fi and sci-fi books, is that they do that. They're like, well, yeah, we go to a planet. Star Trek is infamous for this. We go
mhm,
to a planet and they have kind of normal domestic problems, but they're green. So we can talk
mhm,
about race. Now we can talk about racism. Now we can talk about whatever because they're
mhm.
green people. So it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, but what'd you think of when he ends up going to jail because he can't pay for French fries, and then it's like
Well, that's
Bernie Sanders is jail.
the social credit system type stuff that's in there. Like,
Hmm.
it is fucking dense. It is
Yeah,
dense. Like, it's hard to retain everything because there's just so
no, it is.
much
It is. Uh,
stuff being thrown at you constantly. Like, if actually my one wish would be like they would take this and they would edit it like 150 pages out of it. I think it would be actually a banger. Like, it would be
You could,
sincerely
yeah, no, you could
a
definitely make this
great
work.
book.
You can make this work as a novel and as a short novel too. Yeah,
Well, dude,
for
it's
sure.
almost it's 452 pages. They could you could
Yeah,
lose 150 pages of that
yeah.
easy.
Moby Dick was
And
462. Yeah.
it's like just it's just too much of it's too much redundancy, really,
Hmm.
honestly, and that's really what it comes down to. Like, I don't need you to, I mean, I know that it's intentional. That's part of the thing too. Like, you have to, I have respect for the fact that this is what they wanted to put out. This is what they wanted to do, because
Right.
it's a little bit aggressive, abrasive, and antagonistic and trolly on purpose. I get that,
Hmm.
but it could just be so much more with like a little bit more work and a little bit more like thoughtfulness and just pace better, and it would be a legitimate like banger. It would be kind of like, it kind of reminded me of like the Norm Macdonald book.
Yeah.
It's kind of got that similar thing where it's like a person going on this kind of crazy odyssey through their
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely.
And
No,
that
that.
book's like a 250 page book, and it's perfect. It's one of my
Hmm.
all time favorite things. In fact, I might just start listening to that for my, just for the fuck sake of it, because it's
For the hell of
so
it. Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah.
But
Cleanse your ears from this universe of JAIHOO, so you'll be all right. But dude, I loved like the whole like Bernie Sanders like prison encampment and then the whole cryptocurrency scheme to get out of that and like which as a, like it was crazy. The other thing that I really loved about this was the world gets so fucked through greedy corporations and their capitalism that they basically generate an AI, and who generates the AI is Anna Kasparian Rothschild,
yep.
which they like. I had to go back. I'm like, did you really say Anna Kasparian?
Oh yeah.
Like Rothschild makes this AI, which is basically Skynet computers,
I
or
think it's called the, was it Capitalism M?
it's a
It's
no
hard
no
to keep them straight
okay
because
no
there's like
no
five.
Anna Kasparian she made capitalism M to combat computers, and
Yeah.
computers was like basically the Skynet, the AI that took over the world and
Yes.
is now president of the universe. My bad, but yeah, like you said, dense. It's really jam packed, all kinds
No,
of
but
stuff.
seriously, because there's like
So,
five AIs, like
yeah.
different, that show up in the story, so it's
Well,
easy
yeah,
to
yeah,
confuse
because the
that.
guy who's like main companion is like Chips, which is a robot companion. He helps him
Who is,
navigate through.
which is, it's a reference to a video game. It's a reference to Borderlands. So it's like this little robot thing that follows you
Oh,
around.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool,
But
cool
he's
story.
hilarious though. Chips is fucking hilarious though.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. Like I really have to. We have to say again, like, listen to the audiobook,
Yeah,
because
don't read it.
Sam
Yeah.
Hyde delivers on doing the voices and stuff, and it's pretty fucking funny.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that, but with with this novel, you're accompanied with interact. These like jump notes on the pages that give you an action to do to help enhance your reading experience, and it's all obviously satire. Don't do any of it, but it's fucking hilarious because every time he gets to an interact part, he just completely loses his mind. Interact, and like
Or
uh,
reveal something weird and personal.
it revealed something weird and personal. So like it's.
Like when he's talking about how he tried to get his mom to jerk him off and gets into a mental. Like, I don't know if that's true. I don't.
Or how like he lost control at I-76 and like is not sure if he killed somebody or not. like,
Well,
that
because
shit was.
those jokes are part of the Sam Hyde lore. Like, he used to fuck with his mom. That's kind of how he started. He just have like his little flip camera cell phone and make weird videos. Like when he dropped out of college and he had to like move back in with his mom, and he would like antagonize her essentially, and that's kind of what starts their project. And then the thing about the I-76 thing is because he's known for he's into cars, and he's known for like being a speed demon. Like, there's just videos of him just fucking floor, like the pedal to the floor, smoking a cigar, like cackling, fucking driving like a maniac. So
Jesus.
those are like the Gum Road days. I think, in fairness to Sam Hyde, he really got fucked over, and those guys they got blacklisted essentially after, because they had an Adult Swim show. So they got an Adult Swim show, and the people that Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric, and Brett Gleason or something, I can't remember his name. You would know who I am talking about if I could remember his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically complained to E Street or whatever the production company that produces all the Adult Swim content, and we're like, he's a racist Nazi, and if you re-sign him, we're gonna cause problems essentially, because they kind of are Adult Swim. Like Tim Heidecker is a big part of that brand. He became a big part of that brand through the various shows that he did with Eric Wareheim. But yeah, they got him. They basically got his second season canceled. They were going to be ready to sign like a 3-season deal because the first season did very well. A lot of people watched it, like relative to Adult Swim numbers, because their numbers are kind of lower than like normal network television and stuff. But he has such a rabid fan base that everybody showed up to watch it, and so it did very well for them. And they rescinded the deal and basically blacklisted them. They couldn't get jobs. Like one of his buddies, Charles Carroll, had to move back home and become a construction worker. Like that's how it got. It was like that. So I can understand him having a little bit of a bitterness. And why did I start telling this story, Paul? I don't even remember. Anyways,
that's material. A lot to unpack.
That's the brief history of that. But but it kind of, I think it plays into, that's right, because that's why he was kind of, the Gum Road stuff is so weird, aggressive, all over the place. He just didn't know what he was doing, and he was out there just doing shit himself, just like weird shit of him like standing in a lake talking about politics or life stuff, red pill stuff, because people don't know this, probably don't know this now. Sam Hyde was kind of a proto red pill guy before the red pill guys came along. He kind of was, in terms of like giving advice to young men and stuff like that. Not always good advice, by the way. Sometimes he gave some shit advice, but anyways.
Yeah. So that was quite an interact. Moment.
It was quite an interact. What do you have, like a favorite sequence or moment from the book, or something like really stuck out to you that made you laugh really hard?
I think like the Ernie Sanders thing, his way of trying to get out of the jail was cool, and what happens right after that, where he meets Hero, who ends up being called like was it Light? He ends up being like the most powerful cop in the world and hooks him up to get into this drift race. But that whole like lazy or funny or touch or whatever it was, he's like, they developed like words can't explain the bond that they developed, and he was sworn to secrecy, never did divulge any of the details. But it was like that, like the book is riddled with stuff like that. That's just like hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and just like these quick quibs they does, it just like, whoa, then you think about it for a moment, and then just like that is really fucked up. Like one in particular where you essentially have to pray for your favorite brand, and then and essentially how the entire like Muslim population need to be wiped out because they didn't want to worship a brand in the same breath as Allah. And it's just like a quick like rattle off that he does, and then corporations at the time come up with a euphemism for mass murder. And it's like a throwaway thing that he throws in there, and you just stop, you're like, oh, wait a second, what happened? And you're just like, and so the book is like filled with like a lot of like nuggets like that, but it's really overwhelming because it happens over and over and over
yes
again.
It is. Yeah.
But like if you sit there and you like let it breathe for a second, you're like, oh shit, that was wild. And then like and all the tech that he would describe made up futuristic tech, like the Boston Dynamics like G Spot enhancer, like all this like gear that they wear. was pretty
Well, because
related.
it's which what I loved about all that stuff too is because it's like we had said before, it's like a projection of the possible future if we kind of maintain this ideological bent as a country, as a culture. And
Hmm.
it's basically saying, like, because it's what's happening, Coomer culture.
Yeah,
Like, mainstream culture is becoming Coomer culture. It's all about like influencers and OnlyFans chicks and et
right.
cetera, et cetera. And we're becoming, even though there's never been more virgins ever, like, ever, um, everybody's a fucking pervert.
Hmm.
Nobody's having sex. Everybody's just plugging into the
Because
machine and jerking off.
right, because everything is like rape in your mind. Rape in your mind.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do it to another person. You're already being destroyed. You're doing it to yourself, right? And that's what this
Yeah.
world. That's what this world is.
It
But
caters to it, like it because it shows you how basically companies and stuff like that, they take advantage of these kind of vulnerabilities in a population.
mhm,
They see a trend going on and then
right,
they're like, they want to make some money. They want it. So they start developing products, which reinforces the behavior, which
mhm,
exacerbates the behavior. And then
right,
it makes it such a vicious cycle to the point where you get G-spot enhancers and
right,
robot dicks and, you know,
right. Hmm. Yeah, but hands down, my favorite part is definitely the Joe Rogan experience. Where he goes and meets him, just because the way it plays out on the audio book, and uh, they do a great job
it's
playing on
crazy.
left, right, and everything. Like it really. I was walking my dog dead sober, or early afternoon. I felt like I was tripping. Like it was at maybe that aloof. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really that was really cool. It was really funny. Well, yeah. But what about you with your second listen? Like, do you have a favorite?
I love that whole sequence, Joe Rogan. I love the the Hitler dinner is pretty hilarious. My favorite part is it's like when has the job as the book ripper, and it's like the guy that's like the foreman or whatever, and he's the hobo that keeps
Hmm.
yelling the N word,
Hmm.
just being like a miserable fuck,
Hmm.
because we've all worked with that dude, and
Hmm.
it just I don't know, for whatever reason it's just such a visceral thing, and maybe it's because I've worked with just a bunch of people like that just
Right.
no matter what happens they just have to be the most miserable fucks on the planet, and they want you to be miserable with them, and it's like trying to spread that kind of social contagion
Hmm.
throughout everybody that's working that day. And it reminded me a lot of that, and it was just funny. Like his just performance is funny, the
Yeah.
character itself is funny, even though it's kind of a non sequitur, it's a little bit off to the side. It made me laugh a lot. And the
Yeah.
whole book, and I thought like the whole book ripping thing was kind of pointed. It's very
Hmm.
pointed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And even
Ripping
some
up.
of the books in particular, like ripping up the Bible and throwing it in there. Like it actually is that guy's describing his favorite books to rip.
Hmm.
The hobo dude. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. So, what'd you think about the whole interaction near the end with meeting God and Jesus, and then Jesus being a complete freaking like racist, like a hate white racist?
What did I think about it? I thought it was a little Reddity.
Well, that's Yahoo's. That's their
That's
like we have
exactly,
back
that's
where
a
we come from.
joke.
We have a God, and it's r/atheist, and we don't like a
Yeah.
long mumbo jumbo post.
So yeah, I enjoyed all that stuff because it commented on the Reddit culture because it's kind of presenting it in a way that's very Reddit. And
Hmm.
I don't know, what did you think about it?
That's one of the things where kind of I get the Reddit thing right, and then we're ushering them through, and then Jesus basically pushes them off, serves as a catalyst for the last act to actually end the novel there, and so where we are, like a little bit of context, computers and capitalist Sam and all the world's elite are there, and then they get to select one person to answer a question. They're bound by code to answer the question, and then what Jesus sends Jahu to go ask them is prove to me that God isn't real, and that inevitably like shuts down the power, and then it stops. Either either insinuating like everything like explodes or it comes to a complete halt or not. And if that is the right takeaway, or at least that's how I thought that it was ending, right? And then it's just like how is this world like so demented, and or like how does that like break everything or whatnot? So
Well,
I don't know. I guess
because
I
I
didn't
think
really.
it's an acknowledgement that God is real, and if you can figure out the paradox of this question, like it'll just stop. Because there is
So
actually no answer to that question. There's no answer to that question in your waking life. You're never going to know for sure, right? And
mhm.
I think that's kind of the intent there. Also, or it could be a much darker one where it's like kind of almost like an antinatalist type of perspective of being like, well, what if wouldn't it be better if just none of this existed? If this is what life is it worth living?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's in
Do they?
there. I
Do
that's
they?
my
Yeah. Do they
own
do it? So
projection, but
left you said like that cliffhanger, like for that. So did it blow up, or did it shut down, or like what happened, or did he actually really give away the ending of the book 3 hours prior to narration, saying saying that they defeat capitalism and computers and run off with uh, the hero cop and then go see Dr. Fauci and
that's
find
right.
out the
Yeah, I
next
forgot
plans for the
Dr.
future of
Fauci's
the
in the book.
world. Hmm. All right.
Actually, you know what that is from. It's a reference to Stephen King's The Dark Tower series.
I don't even remember that, dude.
See the last book,
Right, because they got to go. Yeah.
a few chapters before the end, he says you're not going to like the end of this book. So this is probably a good place to stop if you want to feel like something was accomplished and this is a happy full story. You should stop here because what you find out is that the gunslinger is basically stuck in a loop. The end
Mm,
of the last book is the beginning of the first book.
hot damn.
That's what happens when he's destined to always chase the man in black. Like that's his purpose. That's what he is. That's what he does. It's the eternal struggle of good and evil. That's, took him
Yeah.
7 books to say that.
So that was the yeah. That was the parody for that. Well, he also took what like one from Stephen King too, and took a length amount of time to get to his point as well. So, but yeah. So yeah, that was the ending because I mean, like you said, it is dense. There's a lot of like I would say like throwaway stuff in there that's interesting. It can make you like go down a rabbit hole with trying to like whoa that like rabbit hole in the sense of like letting that play out in your head or visualizing
Mm-hmm.
what was just said. He does a lot of building of like really messed up scenarios, like the whole Toyota versus Chrysler, like rivals and everything, which and that quick backstory, right? Because everything has like a quick backstory that goes back, decades and decades, right? And then he rapidly
Yes.
gives you it sets up, and then it goes nowhere
It's
with it,
like
and like so it's
every other
exhausting,
page.
right? It's exhausting to kind of keep up to that, and then you get to this end, and then you get to like Reddit God, and then racist Jesus, and then like and then they go and he fulfills prophecy, you know, to like end the world or shut down computers and capitalism as Jesus and God wanted them to do, because you're on this earth to be creators, not to mindlessly consume with like sex robots, right? It does
Yeah.
have a positive message, and there is positive themes, and even though they're small measurable from Jaihu because his mind is so fucked from the environment he's in, and then being even how he gets into the future is fucked up because Khaleesi like volunteers him against his will by surprise when he's already like paralyzed and uh, vaguely coherent in a hospital, right? Just like a
Yeah.
vicious, terrible person, right? And then he gets launched in here, and then it's just boom, 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 and then fulfills the journey. And so but he does it through through the tones of like ethics, determination, and hard work, and then like listen
Mm-hmm.
to mentors, and then submitting to a higher power, right? Which is part because like what is everybody in this world worshiping? Consumerism. Everyone's worshiping
Yes.
consumerism. Everybody is fucked with constantly chasing play. Like what did Chip say to with the sleeping chambers? Like don't use like this certain setting. You'll never get back from it. It's pathetic. Like a super high loss setting or something. I'm botching it, but it was something. It was something
Yeah, I
like that.
vaguely
But like
yeah.
you get what I'm saying. But like everything is a trap to get you to be a brain dead Coomer and do
Yes.
nothing but to satisfy the corporations.
Which is
And
it's a hyper surreal version of the world that we live in because that
mhm.
is the mandate of a corporation or
Right.
anything that creates products, and they're just tapping into whatever the trend is, whether it's good
Hmm.
or bad. They don't care. And it's always going to end up bad because people are kind of weak. Like we're kind of weak
Yeah.
and we are
And
slaves
even
to
if
our proclivities.
right. Right, and just like Jahu is a weak, like described as a femboy, slim ninja, boy build, right? Who is like simp, cuck, whatever you want to say. Even someone like Jahu, with being able to bird dog your like determination to fulfill something, being empowered with hard work and ethics and like some small rewards there, with traditional values, can navigate through the future in this fucked up world that got progressively worse and still bring justice and still bring good, right? So it does have a good theme in there, and it is just buried with this really gross, like satirical, like take on the world and the history building in the context of the world that he narrates to you through this. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, definitely interesting. It was a fun experience listening to it, but it was a salt on the ears, man. It was probably the crudest thing I think I've ever read. And then
Oh,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and don't need to revisit this one. This isn't one of the
I'll give it a couple
down the road,
years.
5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. But yeah, oh yeah, you know what? Let me pick up Samuel Hyde's Yahoo. Let me go
Well,
check.
it's the kind of book that almost is like a TV show. Like some now that you've seen the whole thing, you could go back and revisit an episode that you
Yeah.
enjoy. You know what I mean? Because like I would go listen to that Joe Rogan sequence and the stuff with the big feast and
Hmm.
the finding out that we're all star stuff and that we're the same as pedophiles and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like that is just a really funny sequence in the book, and you could just isolate that on its own, and anybody would kind of find it funny. Yeah, but I agree with you. I think Sam Hyde's heart is definitely in the right place. I think even just the satire itself kind of tells you what you need to know about how he feels about things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just the fact that he goes so hard in the paint with his satirization, and he's kind of pulls no punches at
No.
all. He does not pull punches in terms of like current culture. Um, I imagine most normies would probably find this pretty offensive to one degree or another, but they'd be wrong. They need to grow a pair. You need to be able to recognize the world that you exist in and stop pretending like it's the one you think it is.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think honestly, and that's actually part of the subtext of Jaihu. Jaihu
Yeah.
has to see the world for what it is, not for what he's been told it is or wants it to be. And then
Exactly.
and then you can actually do something,
Hmm.
whether that's make a change or improve your life or whatever. But you have to accept and understand the reality of your circumstances to be able to prepare for it. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And one last thing for me on this too, like because like I said at the beginning, he kind of goes over every major industry, and the corporate world. He goes on there to include academia. Deep seated hatred for academia reaps through this novel. And he's like, with the
Yeah.
Harvard, Yale, HBSCU, like baby college, do that for 10 years, and then unpaid internship for 10 years, and then go get your PhD, and then like it was insane and not too far off from
But it's
like
the exact. But it's so reflective of all. It's
yeah.
almost exactly how it is, and this is why those people are so fucking awful because they never exist outside of that system, and they have no perspective on life, on the real world. It's the same thing I always complain about film fans, people that are really, really into movies. I'm talking like nearly incel neat types. They have no fucking idea what it's like to be a person other than what they've seen in movies. And their
Hmm.
entire worldview is built around the idealistic kind of notions and messaging of Hollywood. They think that's
Right.
how the world really is. And it's
Yeah.
really fucking disturbing. And that's the same thing when you find in intelligentsia constantly.
Yeah.
Perfectly intelligent people that just have no fucking clue. No clue. And they
Cannot
just read
function.
they read each other's shit, and that's it. It's like this big circle jerk.
Yeah.
And he taps into
It's,
that a little
it's
bit.
more, yeah, it's more articulate echo chamber, right? You see that with people with like social media and whatnot. Like it was social media,
Yeah.
like
It's a
bubbled
very
before
human
there was
thing.
social
Yeah,
media,
you're
right?
right. Yeah.
So yeah, but no, it's but that was definitely something that I chuckle with, and living in a university town and whatnot, and like my
Yeah.
neighbors are like these are my neighbors, these are people I know, and
Yeah.
people I went to school with, out here, like
And
it's
you're walking your dog, listening to Jaihu through the neighborhood, looking
hmm
at them all, being like shaking
looking
your
them all
head.
like I'm on the end, I am on the end.
You just start pointing and yelling at them.
I'm not a
I see
normie.
you. I see you.
Be
I
like the
see who
reverse,
you really are, fucker.
be like the reverse catcher in the rye. Be like, be like you're not phony. Be like, you're a normie. You're a normie. You don't
You're a
know.
normie. I
Which,
see
which,
you.
which funny because that wasn't Catching the Rye one of Jaiho's like favorite books. That there's a reference in. I should have been
Oh, I
prepared.
can't remember.
I
Honestly, I
should have been
can't remember.
prepared. We'll do. We'll
Oh,
do a
dude,
footnote
I
later.
didn't
We'll
have
do a
time to
footnote
take.
later.
I didn't exactly. I didn't have time to like even take notes or anything. I was like, I just got to listen to it again.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh no, Paul's gonna do all the work.
Yeah, yeah, man. But honestly, too, there's not a lot to like sink into like what we normally do when we talk about books. It's
No.
really his performance and the overall message, a cautionary tale, and then
Mm-hmm.
like and virtues get you through the day. Uh,
Yeah.
and like when you strip out this nasty world that he painted, like that's what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm down with that. That's a good effort. It's that old reference we used to talk about when we're in a band all the time, and like jazz sounds the same, but yeah, but it all sounds great. And so like I mean that kind of set up a journey or whatever. I think like I'll read any variation of that. I'll listen to any variation of that. As long
Oh,
as as long as it's
100%.
done as long as it's done well. And in this case, I think it was just performed well and it wasn't written well. And that's just my take
Yeah.
on it.
No, and I completely concur with that assertion, with that kind of summary, because I agree. Like it's just too redundant at times, and I really wish they would just get an editor and just fucking do it for real. But that's not how they do things, so I accept that. I will say this though: if they ever do a JAIHOO'S Trip to the Future 2, I'll definitely be listening. I definitely would.
Oh well,
100%.
for closure, like I would definitely be on there.
And I will have fun. Like as much as I could, like we've kind of commented on some of the negative things we've been critiquing the book, but it is a fun book. I'm not going to
Yeah,
suggest that it's not. And the more plugged in you are to the internet, the more you're going to get it.
yeah,
Essentially,
absolutely,
if
absolutely.
I would say its touchstones are a book called Snow Crash, Ready Player One, a lot of anime in there, a lot of manga in there.
Dude, got a lot of Hard Bodies vibe. We actually did a video on Hard Bodies graphic novel not too long ago.
Oh, Hard Boiled.
Hard boiled.
That
Remember that?
sounds like Hard Bodies. As
Yeah,
if you're
yeah, Hard
talking
Bodies.
about
That's
me.
something else. It was a VHS tape I lent you a long time ago. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is Hard Boiled. That's like same vibe from
Actually,
that.
yeah,
And
it's got a lot of Frank Miller, like Frank
hmm
Miller-esque,
yeah.
right?
A lot of things Sam Hyde was narrating here. I was
Oh,
making those
good
kind of
call. Yeah,
associations
good
to that.
call.
Yeah,
Good call. Because that's kind
yeah.
of it's got a kind of
It's a,
not exactly the same, but the world felt like it would
hmm
work. That could
Yeah,
work, right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, very nice. Well,
Well, thanks
I'm glad.
for getting me on. I wouldn't have gone through if you and Dan weren't always referencing it, and I was just like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I
Well,
think
now
if
you
I
get
listened
it.
to it
Now
four
you
years
know.
ago when you guys did it, like it probably would have been. I think this was the time for me to listen to it. Now that you guys
Yeah,
have corrupted me, a bit for the last 4 years. So
yeah. You know
you
just
made it a
enough now
richer,
to kind
richer
of hang.
experience. All your episodes of Nightcap are big. I know what this is now. I know what this means is in reference to now. So now I know.
I'm out there educating the masses. I'm just teaching people. Just a benevolent teacher. Um, I got no
How
Khaleesi
to
though.
engage the internet, how to counter these brain rotted ideas coming at you.
Hey, and I find kinship with Sam Hyde in that, like where it's like let's have some fun and let's just fucking make fun of this stuff because it's
Mm-hmm.
fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. The things that people are trying to normalize are insane,
Mm-hmm.
and it's everything that like creates a productive, stable society. We're just undermining all of that
Yep.
intentionally, and we're
Yep.
just letting like this minority of literal freaks make decisions for everybody. It's fucking crazy. Did you see the opening ceremony at the Olympics?
Yeah.
Who made that call? Who made that call for that show at all? Like, who does that appeal to? 10 people? Like, what the fuck?
Man. It appeals to the police.
The Khaleesi's and 42-year-old wine moms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to pretend that they're still edgy, you know?
I have a gay friend. No, I support this. I know a gay person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're out of your fucking minds.
Yeah.
But anyways, but that's kind of, I agree with you there. And I think there is value to it. I would definitely recommend people check it out. Even if you're a kind of normie, be kind of a little bit internet literate, and I think you'll enjoy yourself. But it's a thing. It's an experience. We'll say it's an experience. You're gonna like some of it. You're gonna love other parts of it. You're gonna hate parts of it. Kind of runs the whole gambit of what it's like to just read a book in general.
Yeah.
So.
And if you do listen to it, like we recommend, don't go over 1.25 speed. If you get to 1.5 and higher, then it takes away from the performance.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. I actually listened to it, the entire thing on normal speed, which I haven't. Usually when I get books, I can ramp it up a little bit. You can progressively ramp it up. Mm-hmm. But no, I went all original this time.
Nice.
And it was definitely better. It was definitely better for that, because it's like you said, it's so much dependent on that performance, and if you fuck with the performance, you're going to kind of ruin the experience of the book.
Yes.
But anyways, thanks so much, Big Paul, for listening to JAIHOO and for taking the time to give us your thoughts about it. I was very curious as to what your takeaway is. You are the slightly more mature out of the three of us, so I was just kind of curious what you would think about it. But anyways. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again in the near future. We're going to be diving into Dostoevsky. I think that's our next big mountain to climb. We're going to start with Notes from the Underground and work our way towards Crime and Punishment, and we'll see where we go from there.
Hell yeah.
But look forward to more book reading or listening. Hey, we're busy guys. We're almost 40.
Pushing it, man. Pushing it.
All right, everybody. You have the best day ever.